Myco is the root word for mushroom, and we will talk about how mushrooms will replace plastics, food, building materials, and do so in a carbon negative way and save our planet. We'll also talk about perceptual engineering. It's a new type of engineering that has to do with your perception. So this is some of the things that my group has been doing over the last 19 years at MIT, where I'm the director of the MIT Label Free Research Group, and as well as an instructor at the Sloan School of Business. Today, we'll talk a little bit about this, which is olfactory receptors and noses, such as this one that I showed you yesterday, that can sniff the same way that the dogs can, and how this idea, which stabilizes these proteins on top of electronic circuits, came from this idea, which also stabilizes proteins on electronic circuits, only this time the proteins are photosynthetic. And we built things for Africa many years ago that didn't work, all big failure, huge success academically, all the published in Nature, etc. And yet nobody's using biophotovoltaic power in Africa. And I'll tell you why, and I'll tell you what we did about it. I'll also talk about this project here, which has to do with measuring pain. And pain is a perception, pain is in the brain, and it can be measured using toys. This is an EEG toy. That means a device you put in your head, and it can measure your scalp's brain waves. These report somewhat on your brain state and your medical state and your physical state and your state of pain. And we did this to do something completely different, to create solutions for ADD, attention deficit disorder, which, as the slide demonstrates, I have a lot of. And but we ended up by accident inventing the world's first pain detector. So people always ask me, what do I specialize in? What does my group specialize in? And it specializes in not specializing. The instinct is very strong once you get to do something to keep doing more and more of it. And but the real reason to live and to work at MIT is to do more than one thing, not to keep drilling into the same hole, which is also useful for some things, but to keep finding out new things. So that's why the group is called MIT Label Free Research Group, because when your name means nothing, you can do anything. So that's why the name is like that. A big shout out to Philippos Torlomousis, your fellow Greek scientist who created all these devices. And I bought him yesterday, but he's now in Greece, brought back his knowledge that he learned from the Stevens Institute of Technology and MIT back to Greece. And he's launched a company. You should keep an eye on this person, very, very smart and very capable. I saw a lot of young people in the audience, which is great. We at MIT have recognized the importance of youth and the importance of inexperience. The average age of the NASA engineers that went to the moon was 27 years old. This is my first experiment ever to space. Since then, we've sent many, including some of the mushrooms have gone to space. And here we were making a perfectly spherical encapsulation of bubbles that contained drugs. And this was the first time anybody ever had microfluidically created drugs in space. We did this with really young people, and with a tiny budget, under $3,000, we went to space. Yeah. So we discussed this yesterday, how you might think that you need a new sense of smell, a new science to figure out the sense of smell. And if this was a nose back in the 70s, I wanted to recreate one in the 90s and the 2000s. This is how olfaction really works. You smell with your brain, and we're recreating the senses that are located at the cilia here, at the very end of your olfactory sensory neurons. So we discussed this yesterday also. It's the Heisenberg uncertainty principle in olfaction. This is 5 nanometers from here to here of these transmembrane domains. And upon sensing something, upon smelling something, you change it. Another shout out to a very good student here of mine for many years ago, Thrasivoulos Karidis. He was from Patra, that he graduated from MIT with his master's, did fantastic work with me on olfaction, and now is part of a big company doing machine learning for drug discovery. So what we've shown is that we can, about 5 seconds of computation time, we can align human olfactory receptors from, all of them, 200 of the human out of the 411 animals from the same receptor. And that way we can determine where the tuning region is of this protein in about 5 seconds, something that used to take us 1.5 years worth of computation and other problems. So again, I remind you, the world to the trained dog looks like this, where you can see the mixtures between the people. You can see the people emitting various scents.
Very good.
And soon you're looking at a world where this can be done with machines, and a lot of information about your health state, including whether what your mood is, how bad your cancer is, whether you have COVID, how far your pregnancy is, whether you're pregnant, all these things can be known. It's a scary world out there. So we have created the Osmocosm Foundation to also help us with understanding the laws that are necessary once powerful nose phones, such as this one, this is the world's first nose phone, come online. The great big inspiration for this work is, of course, the dogs. The dogs have been shown for 15 years now to be the earliest, most accurate, most precise, cheapest, fastest, best, really, disease detectors. Notice that I have over $100 million worth of equipment that I can access at MIT at my lab. And still, with all this equipment and all this knowledge and all my collaborators from Mass General Hospital and Harvard and doctors, medical doctors, all you name it, we still cannot do better than one of these guys trained for 6 weeks, which is very upsetting. Something's off, right? Both the queens have met our dogs, the medical detection dogs, and my nose that has been inspired by these dogs. And here I'll show it again because everybody just loves it. This is a dog that has been trained on, in this particular case, it's the same if it was cancer, but in this case, it just so happens that this dog is trained on Parkinson's disease, but the same would have happened with cancer. We can also do the GCMS analysis of what is the dog smelling, what odorants, and figure out Parkinson's, no Parkinson's, cancers, no cancers from here. We published this, it became a very big deal. And in addition to everything else we do, we have this notion of build it to understand it. We discussed yesterday how we built this nose. I'm just showing you pictures in case you missed them. It was very, very big. Now it's been shrinking. This is an iPhone, God, I don't remember even, 10 maybe, iPhone 10 perhaps. Yeah. Anyway, it's pretty small. It's getting smaller and smaller. This is at the nose. And the important thing to understand about how this is different than any analytical technique, any technique where you do analysis, where by definition, the answer to the question is a list of names and numbers. That's what analysis is. Analytical chemistry means you are telling me the ingredients of something. You've analyzed it. Analysis, many places. So a dog does not do analysis with their nose. Okay, here's their nose, beautiful machine. Here's their brain, very beautiful machine also. So if you train this dog on this rose, what will happen is, if you set it loose in the city, the dog understands that because you trained it on a rose, in the context of the city, what it should look for is the flower store. Unless there's a rose right next to him, the dog will go for the highest concentration of flowery smells. Now, this will happen even if the flower store doesn't have any flowers. Sorry, doesn't have any roses. If it has all the other flowers but no roses, the dog will still find it because it understands that even though the particular rose smell isn't there, the rest of them might manifest themselves as flowery smell. So it generalizes to this general category of flowery and will find you the highest source of flowery smell. Now, if you were to take that same dog into the flower store and say the command to go seek, which is seek. So the dog now goes and finds you the rose inside the flower store, or ignores everything, says there's no rose here. This means that the dog understands the context, something that is fundamentally impossible to do with analytical techniques because they only tell you the ingredients of something. So you cannot generalize from knowing the ingredients of something, not easily, because it's like knowing the phone book of Chicago and trying to generalize to the phone book of New York. You can't. It's not, the information in one does not generalize to the information in the other. So we are getting close to a device such as this one, and there's actually others on the marketplace too that would rival the dog's limit of detection. And let me play you a little cartoon animation here from a company that is no longer going any much. It's called Sentient, so I'm okay to tell you about it. Let me just make sure that this gets opened. Yes. So this is an explainer for 1 minute of what the vision is. So this particular example is not going to work exactly as explained because it talks about GCMS, but we want to use the same thing and replace this 40 or 50-year-old technology called GCMS with an instantaneous technology, which is called dog nose.
Did you know that every year, millions of people are undergoing biopsy procedures, but up to 80% of these biopsies are completely unnecessary? Yet for more than a decade, we've known that dogs can detect cancer simply by sniffing, often with 99% accuracy. So, are we going to put dogs in hospitals and start sniffing people? Of course not. But we can emulate what they do. At Sentient, we have already trained an AI platform on the same principles and achieved 95% accuracy in detecting prostate cancer as a proof of concept, when the current best-in-class diagnostics have only 80% accuracy, which is not good enough to prevent unnecessary biopsies. And we do that with just a small amount of urine at a fraction of the cost. Our technology is different than anything used currently in diagnostics, opening an entirely new frontier of improved patient outcomes with much more accurate and cheaper diagnostics.
Okay. So with that, we can move on to tell you just one more thing, that in order to understand this world of olfaction better and to bring in this new reality where the world of molecules becomes as immediate as the world of photons, and to move us towards where we can sniff the world with our smartphones, I've created and co-founded this foundation called the Osmocosm Foundation. Do you note that the color scheme is a little bit Greek because I'm Greek, and also the name, Cosmos Tisosmis. Excuse me. So we do these conferences every year at MIT. Everyone here is invited to come participate. It's free for students and a mild cost for industry. And we have really giants of intellectual achievement coming to us. Last year, we had Bob Langer. Bob Langer, many of you have his intellectual property inside of our bodies. So if you have the Moderna vaccine slushing around inside your body, the mRNA vaccine, he's the man who invented co-invented the mRNA vaccine technology. He's a co-founder of Moderna. He's the highest ranked professor at MIT, even before COVID he was, with patents enough to close matching what Thomas Edison had towards the end of his life. And Bob also, of course, is a recent billionaire. Dr. Claire Guest, she's the one who published these early works back in 2004, showing in a really robust and scientific way that dogs can be trained to diagnose disease, and she did it just with such quality of results and data and such cleanliness of methodology that it really set the stage for the whole planet. We have many other professors, including Greek Manolis Kellis. He's a superstar at MIT. We have Papa Kostadinos, who was also the CEO and originator of that cartoon I just showed you. Many Greek people, such as Dimitris Ioannidis, who's also talking at at this conference. We have also Myco Bledsoe somewhere here, I believe he is. Where is he? There he is. He was participating as a judge in our moot court competitions, where we have practicing judges and law students and technologists, such as Michael, to understand and inform the laws of the future by playing out cases that haven't happened yet. And we also ideate about the future by asking students and others to design things that haven't happened yet, such as, for instance, we have this newspaper, which is from the future. What year is it from here? The newspaper is from February 2031, and it looks at the world, assuming the technology is already out there, to see what kind of things can we expect. And of course, you would have abuse of the technology. You'd also have new cases, such as you can sniff disease, okay, but now you can also sniff agricultural products, and all these wonderful things are happening. I can sniff spoiled fruit. You can do all sorts of interesting things. So you can this content, and we reward the best content every year. So that's for us what the Osmocosm Foundation can do. And for you, please join it. It's free. We don't ask for money unless you're a big corporation. And at the very bottom here, there's 3 videos. I just want you to watch them if you can. If we have time, I'll play them for you. They're very short, but they explain everything and they set the vision out correctly. So with that, that brings me to my next thing, which is to couple now the idea of perceptual engineering from the sense of from the point of sensing, which is the noses that we use to capture the world, to the point of now, what do you do with this scent? What can you do if you capture scent? What do you do if you actually emit scent? So one of the things is that you can actually improve vaccines. Vaccines have this word called adjuvant about them, which is a dirty little secret of the immunologist. My wife is a neuroimmunologist, so she taught me all their inside knowledge. And adjuvant means you are doing something to alert the system so that the immune system can pay attention to what you're inserting in your body. and can learn to recognize by paying attention. How can you make someone pay attention? Well, one thing is to surprise them. Another thing is to cause them pain. And adjuvants basically do both. They create a surprising pain that you don't expect, and that's why vaccines tend to be painful. Now, we want to examine how we can remove the pain and also add efficacy by adding an olfactory component to this, to both the vaccine and also to pain management. So, can you engineer perception as an analgesic, as a painkiller? And the answer is yes. The placebo effect is fantastically strong. It is not to be trifled with. Don't think that it's nothing. You can probably think yourself to death if you abuse the placebo effect. It might take a few cycles, but it's possible. Now, in order to be able to deliver interventions that are legal and can be quantified, you must quantify what you're solving. So if we're solving pain with scent, we must know how much pain you had before, how much pain you have now. That is, it's very subjective. People can only report pain. I'll show you how in a minute. So what can happen is you can start applying proper painkillers after surgery and co-apply them with odorants and slowly couple the sensation of the scent to the sensation of the pain relief, and then send people home with just olfactory cues, such as chewing gums embedded with a little bit of painkiller and a lot of odorant that reminds the brain how to lower the pain perception. We believe this is possible. We've seen animal evidence. We haven't done it in humans yet. Another one is to treat PTSD, the post-traumatic stress disorder, which a lot of people have, not just soldiers, not just people with trauma. And that can be done by associating a smell with the therapy sessions and then representing that during sleep in hypnotherapy. Again, here's the Rasivulus Jimenez work on pain measurement using EEG, which started like this. I wanted to treat my ADD, and I treated by flying airplanes and riding motorcycles. And when I'm in those states, which are very high adrenaline states, I don't ADD. Look, I'm very focused. I wanted to measure my brain waves and see if I could reach them and re-enter those states without having to fly a plane or drive a motorcycle, because those things have a cost and they're dangerous. Now, the toy, it still is available. It's called the Muse. It's $300. It's not expensive, and it has 7 EEG sensors. Now, nobody thought you could do anything with this other than play around. However, upon reprogramming it, we programmed it with our own software. It actually became more powerful than even the clinical born, $30, $40, $50,000 devices. The way we did it is we had students wear this device and put their hand in cold water, and then take it out when they've had enough pain. If you put your hand in cold water, pain will start rising up your arm into your shoulder. And then we didn't torture anybody too much. We just told them, take your hand out when you've had enough. I did it first, so I knew it was not too bad. Plus, it's the standard in the industry. So we record the whole brain waves plus the general voltage, and then we look back 10 seconds, and we call those 10 seconds before somebody enters the cold water, and right before they exit, we call those no pain and pain. So we don't have any a priori understanding of what the pain should look like, but we self-calibrate. So we show the machine what your pain looks like. And then we calibrate, including we can do this on a smartphone. And we find that very, very quickly, you can cluster the pain states from the non-pain states very efficiently. Even with your eyeballs, you can draw a line here, and you would make very few mistakes. So you'd get most of them correctly. We found that pretty much any classifier would work. All that changes is how many milliseconds you need to classify these data. You can do it as fast as 32 milliseconds if you use the decision tree, which in fact is faster than human cognition, which means that if you're wearing this device, I can predict what you're going to tell me before you tell me about whether you're in pain or not and how much pain you experience. So we validated on many different data sets, and we found something remarkable. What we found is, and those of you who do machine learning and artificial intelligence will find this perhaps very problematic. We found that if you have a various features that you're looking for in the signal, and this is just we created 5,000 random feature IDs, and the features might be something like, oh, take let's say this value here, divide by that value, multiply by whatever 10 times this value, etc. Make some operation on these signals as they go, playing around with the time and the amplitudes and the sources, and create a unique signature. That's all it is. It's nothing very fancy. Now, if you keep doing this and you keep measuring thousands of people and trying to find an average brain, what you will end up is something that is 67% accurate, has very little variance, but isn't really getting any better. Now, if you measure your own brain and understand what your pain looks like, and then try it again, with just 7 features, you can get close to 100% accuracy. It will always fluctuate around 100%. It will never get obviously above 100%, but you don't want it to be at 100%. It should be 99 point something, because if there's no error, that means you've done something very wrong. If anything is 100% right, it's 100% wrong. Everything must have an error or it's fake. Okay. So the key points we learned is this. First of all, do not work with population average models when it comes to these kind of perceptual engineering approaches and many others for health, because in fact, the variation from human to human is so vast that there is no such thing as an average human. You got to self-calibrate. This is also seen in many other interventions, not just this new stuff. Even drugs, they work in 2 out of 3 people, and you have to keep looking. So you can personalize the machine learning. So we change the structure of the extraction of these handles for each user. We don't have one and then hope that everybody fits it. And we have, of course, this problem of generalization versus overfitting. And there's a little bit of a trade-off there. And then we think we found that the main concern here is that you must adapt the machine to the human, not the other way around. A lot of the things that you see out there, including Elon Musk's Neuralink, they're trying to drill holes in your head and put things in there because they want the computer to communicate more efficiently with you. I think that's wrong. I think the body has the right number of holes, no more holes. If your computer is not capable of communicating with my brain very well, the problem is with the computer, not my brain. So stop trying to change me, change the machines, okay? So with self-calibrating protocols, we have many different types of interventions, from productivity to diagnosis to calmness, etc., and also to pain. I want to tell you, this is not on the market now, but we do have a patent for it. This was in 2019, so 4 years ago. It was still the same. Has not. Look at this. This is the universal pain assessment tool. It's a cartoon with various languages that says no pain, and here it says worst pain possible. That is horrible. How do you know worst pain possible? What is this worst pain imaginable nonsense? It should say worst pain you've ever experienced. You can't imagine anything. I mean, this is nonsense. And this is also the part of the reason that we don't understand pain. We don't know how to manage it. It leads to the American opiate addiction, and I really hope this does not come to Greece if it hasn't come already. It is a nasty thing. It's a disease of the population, and the entire population is suffering. So I want you to pay attention to what's been happening with virtual reality also. Virtual reality and mixed reality for 16 plus 4 is 20 years now. This was 20 years ago. On Wired, it was shown that you can play virtual reality games that are specifically made to reduce your pain perception when you're a burn victim. If you've been burned and they're cleaning your wounds, it's one of the biggest pains a human can experience. If you're wearing a VR helmet throwing snowballs at penguins, that's what the game was, called Snow World, your pain perception is reduced to a lower level than what the maximum possible application of morphine will give you. Let me say that again. A virtual reality game reduces your pain more so than morphine. Do you get it? Do you get where the future is going? Okay. Also, the fact that there's now all sorts of wearable devices, it's early days, they're pretty clunky, but it's happening. We're starting to read the body, we're starting to read the mind, and create interventions. So we learned that the most important technology lesson we can have from here is that more data isn't necessarily better data. Calibrated data, actionable data, it doesn't necessarily come from just more and more and more. You'll see a lot of machine learning and artificial intelligence people, the first thing they always tell you is more data. I need more data. I need more data. Well, sometimes, and sometimes you don't. And in fact, it makes things worse. A lot of the things that we're doing, where we're blinded by our own expertise, we didn't realize when we were building this pain detector. We're not building a pain detector because all I had in my head was ADD. I wanted to solve my own ADD, so my own expertise kind of blinded me. And the business lesson here is, for those of you interested in deploying businesses, is that there's a vast untapped opportunity for human performance enhancement using all these techniques, including smelling your state, including using smell to change your state, and of course using brainwaves and other things. Now we're going to change the gears completely and talk about something very different. Now, in this poster, which I bring back again, in my head, I know exactly why each of these things came out of each other thing. But in your head, it's not, you haven't been living inside my head, so you don't know the story. So I do leave them connected, like to show that nature and the brain are always one. The boundaries that we set are made by humans. They're not really made by nature. So just like the Center for Bits and Atoms, where my group is situated inside of MIT, is dedicated to the idea of integration, of having the ability to address and understand and manipulate energy and matter at all scales, from the subatomic all the way to the light year parsec or giant. So that is how life is. It's all one. It's not divided by textbooks. So over specialization is a problem. Now, candid picture of Ed, the evolutionary mushroom. And instead of spending a ton of time explaining to you everything, a 3-minute video, but let me just tell you a couple of terms. So we have this term called mycelium, which is the root system of mushrooms. Okay. So this root system can be allowed to grow through anything that used to be photosynthetic and consume it and create this material that then upon compression can become one of the lightest, strongest materials on the planet, and also has the advantage of being carbon negative in its creation. So let me just play you this video. This is what we've deployed in Namibia as part of the project that I created and lead for MIT called Myco. We called it Biohab in the beginning. We changed the name, so you'll see it's called Biohab here, but it's actually called Myco.
A beautiful arid country in the southwest of Africa is experiencing record drought, homelessness, and unemployment exacerbated by malnutrition and COVID-19. Standard Bank Group has teamed with MIT Center for Bits and Atoms and Red House Studio to develop a new way of building, designed to create food security, agricultural jobs, and dignified low-cost housing all at once. The project is called Biohab, and it's the world's first building made with this sustainable technology. Biohab is not just a building, it is an ecosystem. We start with the blackthorn encroacher bush that is choking the water supply. By harvesting the bush, we enable grasslands to regrow that can feed cattle and antelope. We've shown the biomass from the bush is an substrate for growing gourmet mushrooms, a food that uses the least amount of land and energy per pound protein of any. Mushrooms provide food and generate income for the farmer. The waste from the mushroom cultivation can be used to create building materials. By pressing and baking the waste, the materials can be made stronger than concrete. The construction of the Biohab works like this. And in full arch, formwork is erected. Bricks from the agricultural waste are stacked on top. Once the bricks are in place for the arch, the formwork is deflated and can be used again and again. A mud lime rendering is added to protect the bricks from the elements, and a roof is added on top. With proper waterproofing and topsoil, the roof can be used as arable land. Standard Bank, the CBA, and Red House are committed to furthering this technology. Millions of people with healthy food, good jobs, and comfortable, dignified shelter. And in doing so, hope to inspire the building industry to look at sustainable, low-carbon materials for building and regenerative practices for growing food. In the world after COVID-19, Biohab is not just a building, it's an ecosystem, an economy, community, the future.
Okay, so that was that. Now, back to this, I guess, here, like this. So this was what we're creating in Namibia. And I want to point your attention to a very important fact here. Now, allow me to go through here a little bit. So if you start with 10 kilograms of encroacher bush, remember, is trash. It's something that they would normally burn and put out in the atmosphere because it puts its roots 40 feet into the ground and saps up all the water. So you go from 10 kilograms, you add 15 kilograms of water, 5 of which you can get back. So you got 10 plus 10 plus oxygen that you get from the air and carbon from the air. After 63 days, 3 21-day cycles, you get 10 kilograms of edible mushrooms. This encroacher bush plus the water plus the oxygen also gets compressed in a 10-kilogram Myco brick. You get back the water, and this thing now, because we keep the C, but we get rid of this O2, we actually stored 22 kilograms of carbon dioxide equivalent. We sucked up 22 kilograms of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, spat back out the oxygen, which is good. Okay, it's the carbon that's the problem. This rather not even the carbon. CO2 is the problem that captures heat. So for every 10 kilogram block, we're actually cleaning up the atmosphere from 22 kilograms of carbon dioxide. That is an insane amount. And it's not even the top. So we've done a 2.2 time improvement, and people can say you can go up to 2.67. So there's still even a little bit left that we can push. The facility has been built. It has a full-time staff. It has been funded. We've spent close to $3 million now over about almost 4 years. We did have a big problem with COVID because I couldn't travel there, but it is there. It's happening. This is part of the people who come to work and to play and to understand this. We have international interest in cloning this. We want to bring this to Greece and many other countries. This is what it looks like inside. And here comes the blocks and the mushrooms, who are very lucrative. Now, here I'd like to, the Wall Street Journal covered this, and there's a couple of non-scientific but fun things to see. So let's look at this one here first. So this is the Wall Street Journal reporter, and this is my partner and chief architect, Chris Maurer, who has this fantastic vision for the planet and even the solar system that includes us cleaning up what the mess we've made and building in a way that does not destroy the environment and in fact protects.
Exactly. Compression strength is the ability to take a downward pressure.
Mushroom blocks can also be more resistant than concrete at withstanding impact, like from this sledgehammer.
Let me say this one more
Like
time.
from this sledgehammer.
Okay, this is not scientific.
It's not the most scientific
Thank
of
you.
tests, but it does give you.
Okay, so it was a fun test. This is not how we test, actually. We have proper equipment to test it, but it was fun to show. And another thing that was fun to show that I should have said, no, don't do it at home, Danielle, but she did anyway. Daniela did this at home, despite, I was shocked that she did this at home, but I told her that the bricks, correctly, are fire suppressant. And she
So the
believes
world's carbon emissions.
Plus, he says they're biodegradable and relatively lightweight. Andreas told me that these blocks are also fire retardant, which is a really important quality in building materials. I decided to put that to the test.
If you've not
A little
doing this at
flame, there
home-
we go. If I take it off, it should go off. As
Okay,
expected.
she's safe.
The official test will be much more dramatic. They'll have
Okay, so with that, we can show you some pretty pictures and start heading towards the Q&A. Yeah, so this is the inflatable. It did not work as advertised because the rats ate holes in it, but I'll show you also something that we created in order to cut these long pieces. It is a machine that cost us $223, created by MIT graduate Sam Kalish, and it uses this pen to draw in large format, and there's 4 pulleys and math to calculate any shape and put it on a plotter. Now imagine this cost us $223 plus the cost of the pen. Now, in order to get a large format plotter, it was a $30,000 quote, plus you had to have specialized ink, specialized paper, or specialized materials, and a specialized person to come and maintain. So we built this for nothing, and it's working. I want you to pay attention to this person here. Her name is Carol Smith, and she was a banker who was very high up, senior head of strategy of Africa's largest bank, who funded this project. And she could have been set for life typing away at her little keyboard, and instead she has quit all that to do this. Not just this, but everything. Here she's using heavy machinery to weld one of our inflatables. So this work attracts people who are pluripotent, who want to do more than one thing, and who want to really save the planet. And it's just a fantastic experience being part of this project and having led it this far from MIT, and now seeing it go to other countries and just become this big thing for the planet. Now, here's what the reality looks like on the ground. This is still the most primitive part of the operation, is our compression. So we have to compress these things into using this manual process. It takes several minutes per brick. and then they get baked. The bricks get baked in here.
So we need to get.
Then we have all
Think
these.
that other people might.
That's the machine. So you'll almost never see me doing physical labor. I'm in favor of the robots doing that. So when I saw how bad it was to extract these bricks, we built this. And to MIT students and our team's credit, we had this problem on a Thursday. I think either Friday or Monday was a holiday in Namibia, and by Tuesday, from Thursday to Tuesday, we built it. So this machine extracts bricks now in 1 brick per minute instead of 3 bricks per 90 minutes. With 1 brick per 30 minutes. So here comes the brick. It's like being bored. I'm so happy. You have no idea how proud this brick here makes me. Okay. So unfortunately, the scaffolding, the inflatable did not work. This scaffolding, you should know by comparison, is $2,500 to rent per week, which is insane. And also, if one of these beams falls on your head, you can die. If, in fact, the inflatable falls on me, which it did, nothing happens. It's just most of the mass is supported by the soil. And then as it comes to you slowly, it's distributed. So you can just hold it up. It's beautiful. It's safe. But the rats were attracted to the glue inside. So we need to figure out a better way. So what you can do right now is you can go and buy these mushrooms at the store. And they're already outselling meat for the price. They're gourmet, they're organic. The only things that went into their cultivation is heat, pressure, water, and air. No chemicals, no pesticides, nothing. Imagine the cost savings and imagine how much safer that is to eat than anything else. We plan to create this humanitarian housing to address over 150,000 homes that we need to create to house about 500,000 Namibians who are currently living in shacks. And we plan to do so by selling mushrooms, creating these bricks, but also selling tea and biltong, which is mushroom jerky on the international markets, and giving you a way to track how much carbon was sucked out. So we have a humanitarian marketing scheme. Again, the comparison between this and this, the bricks that you see on the right are the worst polluters on the planet. The military and war activities are the #1 pollution source on the planet. And believe it or not, it's because the military and military activities include a lot of building. And this is the worst thing that we do. We cannot maintain the planet going this way. In fact, we must change to something like this, which not only doesn't put carbon out, and yet, in fact, stores it. For every brick that we create, we store the carbon for the duration of the lifetime of the brick, which could be 25 years, which could be 125 years. And after the end of the brick's life and at the end of the building's life, we put it back in the soil, and that soil becomes maximally fertile. Currently, if you destroy a building, demolish a building, that soil is poisoned. It's not just bricks. You can make very different shapes and include this here is a model for Stella McCartney. Stella McCartney is the designer who has used the same process, same material, only she uses a different formulation so that it's thinner. And she creates underwear, high-end underwear out of mushroom mycelium. Max Hendricks from MIT, an MIT student, has gone back to Europe and he created this company, which creates mycelium coffins in order to decompose the body in a nice way and put it back in the soil in the forest. I was shocked to find out from him that one of the problems, I mean, he got a nice grant from the European Union for, I think, $1 million or something like this. But one of the things that he had to show, and one of the problems is that we have created a society in a world where our bodies are so contaminated, we bioaccumulate so much nonsense, so many chemicals and other things in our lifetimes that it is against the law to dispose of a human body in a forest with this method, unless you can prove that over 200 chemicals that the typical, at least European body has accumulated can be safe for the forest. So you must first leach that out of the body, then allow the body to be decomposed. Otherwise, you're hurting the forest. So where we've come to create, for the human body to become a hazard, that tells you something that we've taken it far too far. I mean, I heard somewhere this horrifying idea that we now have microplastics found inside of human brains, living brains. That's just nonsense. Okay, we gotta stop this. This mushroom material is also the #1 target for replacing styrofoam and all of packaging that is currently carcinogenic and all sorts of different products. By the way, Stella McCartney is Paul McCartney's daughter, very high-end designer. There is no limit to the number of applications. Anything that is currently made of plastic can be replaced with this, and everything that is currently made of brick or lumber can be replaced with this. This is a lumber replacement, it's a brick replacement, it's a plastic replacement, it's also food replacement, and it grows fast. It grows in a carbon negative way and requires no pesticides. It is an amazing revolution or evolution of how we do food, how we do medicine, how we do building. And it is happening everywhere. We are one of many, many places that are doing this. We have our own approach to it. We've patented this triangle, which tells you that as a natural byproduct of creating food, drink, and medicine, you're creating bricks, composites, packaging, and insulation. And as a natural byproduct of these two processes, if you document what you're doing, and we are because we're born digital, Kyle and Kirk Smith's idea here, that you can create IP, payment for ecosystem services, and carbon credits that will eventually eclipse the lucrative nature of everything. So with that, I am done, and I would like to invite your questions. I think I did well. I left 15 minutes for questions. And please tell me what you liked, what you didn't like, and what I can help you understand better. Thank you.